we are in a situation that I probably dreamed about 2 years ago.
Even some of the most, risk-on products that we have in DeFi, you're still looking at, anywhere between, let's call it 4 to 20%.
Bull markets make you money, bear markets make you wealthy.
Yo, what's going down, guys? Welcome back to the Beat the Banks podcast. Today, we have an incredibly special show. For the last 3 weeks, you've been listening to the stories of some of our coaches, Chris, Zack, and Jangle. And today, I have all three of them, the Musketeers, here on the roundtable Q&A section of the show. So, guys, welcome to the show. Chris, Zack, and Jangle. How are you guys getting on? Don't all speak at once.
Happy to be here.
Nice. What's new, guys? Someone drop us some a little bit of alpha before we get started. Everyone loves this stuff.
Use your blockchains. Don't just buy something and never use it. If you're going to buy an asset, you should be, especially a layer one asset, a blockchain, gas coin, you should be familiar with using that ecosystem. That's going to give you the most alpha.
Yeah. Don't use ADA.
Well, if you can
you can't use ADA. Yeah. You can't use ADA. Anyway, we're getting into the show already. So, Zack, how are you getting on today?
Doing well. Thank you.
Zack's warned us he's currently in Mexico in the middle of a thunderstorm. So if he just disappears, he disappears, but we'll keep it rocking anyway. All right, cool. Let's get into this. Oh, actually, before we get into this, as always, guys, if you're enjoying the show, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and ring the little bell so you get notifications next time we drop one of these shows, because you can get lots of alpha, and that will make Jangle happy. He might even shill his own Twitter at the end of this. Who knows? I don't know what's going to happen. Anyway, let's get into the show. So the idea of today, guys, is we really want to bring the smartest minds that we have at YieldFarming.com into this little virtual roundtable and to talk about some of the hottest topics in the world of crypto and DeFi. So I thought a good place to start off was with the ultimate topic of, is this a bull cycle? Is this a bear cycle? Where are we sitting right now? So who wants to kick this one off today?
Zack, I feel like you have the most TA experience if you want to start it off.
Can I go first? Yeah, absolutely.
Wait, Zack, you're not allowed to share any charts. This is just so we're clear.
That's all good. That's all good. No worries. Overall, I'm an investor, first of all, so I do have to state that whenever I talk about any of these projects, I do think about the long term of where everything is going. In my opinion, we are in a situation that I probably dreamed about 2 years ago. Just seeing, massive adoption happening from institutions, public institutions as well, major hedge funds, major companies rebranding and moving their entire company structure and strategy towards a crypto-based future. So the space itself has never been more bullish. Now we are seeing in the world more and more use cases emerging for self-custody, for privacy, for equal rights. And with the rise of all these topics, the use case and the future for Bitcoin as well as blockchain-based assets, I think are extremely prominent and upcoming. So overall, I'm very bullish. Now that's the long-term view, obviously. Looking at the short term, due to obviously known geopolitical conflicts, the short term is definitely uncertain. And myself, I am not as risk on as I was. Obviously, whenever you're investing, you kind of prepare your portfolio depending on like the geopolitical interests as well as the surroundings. And right now, because it's uncertain, you reduce the risk that you take on in terms of directions. For this reason, we have excellent opportunities in stablecoin farming. And that's what I'm focusing on with most of my portfolio, for example, at the moment, because, when you're stablecoin farming, it doesn't make you have less money. You're still earning an excellent, 20% interest. But in terms of direction risk, in case the market goes down, it will definitely prevent you significantly from that. So I expect some volatility for the near term, but on the long term, I am super, super bullish on crypto.
Yeah, I think that everything you said is pretty spot on. I'm a little bit more risk on, but not as heavy in altcoins at this time. So I am worried about the short-term price action. And, I always say when Bitcoin's below its, not to get too technical, but 20-week moving averages or 50-week moving average, when Bitcoin's in an objective decline over a few month period of time, over a couple quarters, altcoins they get hammered. And so I'm not really wanting to expose myself to all of that volatility at this time, but I'm not extremely heavy on stable coins right now. For me, Bitcoin, and then especially personally, ETH in preparation for the merge coming, probably in the next 4 to 12 months. Yeah, that's kind of what I'm prepping for. The big question here is is the super cycle canceled, or have we kind of escaped the Bitcoin halving event really driving the whole market? So I think that the on-chain use cases, the on-chain technicals and fundamentals essentially are as strong as ever. A year ago, 2 years ago, it was maybe debatable whether or not digital assets had any real world utility. After everything that's happened in the last 8 weeks or so, that's no longer a debate. This is pretty critical technology that has saved a lot of people's skin and has been used for various, humanitarian and, equality purposes, and self-custody of your own assets is such a big deal. So on the 5-year time horizon, I'm mega bullish. On the 6-month time horizon, I'm tentatively bullish.
I love that. We'll dive into a little bit more of each of these answers in a second, but let's go over to the main man, Kim John. What is it this week?
Kim No Jog.
Okay, let's go with that. Chris, what's up, man?
I pretty much point with everything everybody's saying. I kind of liken it to, this is not necessarily startup culture, but essentially I think we're in a situation where there's so much jockeying for position, but essentially what's happening now is we're seeing the warm up to what I think is going to be the future of finance, investing, and doing business moving forward in the future. I think there's a lot of great signals that are happening right now. A lot of institutions that have gone from, this could be an interesting way to invest some of our funds to, let's start moving everything over into crypto. You're seeing big funds like Grayscale really diversify the fund just to provide a huge product offering for people who have seen the effects of crypto, gotten past whatever the suspiciousness or the scam effect of what crypto could be, to now this very compelling use cases to put quite a bit of money in there. So I think that a lot of things have happened over the last 6 to 12 months to change that narrative. And I'm very excited to see long-term where this heads. I think short-term, we're just going through the ups and downs of the players that are going to be creating that landscape for us moving forward. But I'm definitely bullish on what's happening right now. I think what we consider, bearish conditions are just kind of like the speed bumps that we're going to have to be going to get to that next level. So yeah, I'm super bullish. I have no reason to not be full in on crypto. Obviously, portfolios should definitely be diversified into different investment vehicles, but for me, crypto is the way to go.
Interesting. So I may have misunderstood this, but from what I'm hearing, Zack and Jangle definitely seem to be a little bit more bearish in the short term than you, Chris. Maybe I'm wrong, but you're just saying here you see jockeying for position. You're talking about the layer ones. What you're really getting at here?
Yeah, there's going to be a little bit of shrapnel, I guess is the word I'm looking for. There's going to be some bombs going off, some things that, are going to hurt along the way. But I think these are just speed bumps on the road to where we're getting to next. There's obviously transitional costs and stuff like that. So I'm looking at it as opportunity costs. These are things that are just going to happen for us to get from one phase to the next. Obviously, we're looking for that decoupling between most fiat currency and digital currency. And I think this is part of that transition to getting there.
Well, let's talk about that. Someone grabbed this next question. And obviously we saw with the whole Fed and the inflation and all of this, Bitcoin took a hit a while ago. So are we expecting to see the same in the next 6 months as more announcements come?
I think that this most recent drop is off of a change in expectations of monetary policy in the Fed. And I don't claim to be a macro expert, but as Chris was just alluding to, in the recent, year or two, more institutions have gotten involved in this asset class. That's a lot to do with the fact that now they are starting to develop vehicles that they can sell to their clients to get exposure to this asset class. So 3 years ago, Grayscale, large money managers, they didn't have products to sell their customers as a way to gain exposure to digital assets. And now they're ramping that up. So now they've got skin in the game. Now they've got, ways to actually make money off of this asset class. So now the big boys are starting to play ball. The downside of that is we're seeing, we've always seen, but increasingly more of a tight coupling to the digital asset class and the legacy financial system. So that I don't think is a trend that we're going to escape anytime too soon. I think in 3 years that will still be the case. It's hard to look out any further than that. But while you have these big money managers, if you get pensions or, whatever the big money players in this asset class, when the Fed increases hawkishness or even speaks about setting expectations for monetary policy in a more of a QT, a quantitative tightening direction, that's just going to hit risk on asset classes as money managers adjust their portfolios accordingly. Currently, unfortunately, Bitcoin is viewed by the market as a risk on asset. I think that will probably change 10 plus years down the line, but for the foreseeable future, that's the case.
Interesting. Zach, I'd love you to come in here because you talked about going heavy on the stables right now. Are you still DCAing into ETH, into BTC, or do you just think there's too much risk in the short term?
First of all, I'm buying BTC and ETH either way, every single, bi-weekly, actually. What I'm thinking, like I was just thinking about your question and how to answer it. And for some reason, just inflation comes to my mind. And even if the market goes on a downtrend, and even if it takes crypto down, I think that the asset class that will appreciate the most right after the downturn is going to be crypto. And now thinking about statistically, which asset class is appreciated the most over the period of the last 10 years, it was crypto. Brings me to a conclusion is that the opportunity is in crypto for investors. Independent from bear market, bull market, inflation, whatever it is, crypto is where it's at and where most of the money is going towards. If you think about like DeFi, maybe total value logged, it's like $250 billion, but it's gonna be a multiple $1 trillion industry. We are very, very early in DeFi.
Appreciate it. So let's talk a little bit more about the layer ones. We're going to get into the full battle of the layer ones a little bit later in this episode. I really want to know this because I'm sure a lot of people are in my position where they'll be asking you guys this question and they were like, do I need to wait to be getting into some more of the layer ones and see any more announcements from the Fed before I start going in? Because Jangle, you said this at the start of the show. You said that you're not too heavy on the alts right now. You fear that you could see a big slashing of what's happening. It could be a bloodbath potentially. So where do we sit with this?
Yeah, I do have personally some exposure to AVAX, just because there's some good farms that have exposure to AVAX that I'm in, and I really like that ecosystem and its subnet technology. I've talked about that before. By altcoins, what I'm really meaning in that context is the lower market cap projects, the application tokens. I think the Sol, Luna, AVAX, Narrative, it is further out on the risk curve than Bitcoin and ETH. But, if ETH is down 5%, then AVAX is going to be down 8% on the day. Like it's not, but some small market cap application tokens might be down 30%. So that's kind of my thought process is when I'm trying to have a good risk adjusted return. I still think the alt L1s, while they're a little bit more risk than the blue chips, certainly more risk than stable coins, they're a pretty good risk adjusted return if you can pick the right ones, in my opinion.
Chris?
Yeah, I completely agree with Jangle. I think that it would be a disservice to anybody who's just waiting.
Yeah.
I think at this point, just looking at even some of the most, risk on products that we have in DeFi, you're still looking at, anywhere between, let's call it 4 to 20%. So if any reason, for anyone who's wanting to wait, just start slowly transitioning some of your portfolio in there in terms of your allocations, because you can get better yields than you'll probably ever get on some of the best, even machine learning type of hedges, in my opinion, just doing your own research. So I don't think it's time to wait. I think it's time to take action and just start seeing how well you can do risk-wise. Obviously, there is risk. Obviously, we're seeing a lot of security issues and we're seeing a lot of, mainstream crypto issues, kind of be put out there as a deterrent. But I think that's essentially what they're trying to do, is they're trying to deter you from getting in. And I think you should definitely get in and at least start seeing how you can do, like what Jangle was talking about with your returns. The risk is definitely worth the reward, especially now. Get in now while everyone's still trying to figure out, is it worth it? Find out for yourself.
Yeah, in my opinion, the best thing that you can do, especially if you've got a small to medium sized portfolio, is learn how to use this technology. I personally have the philosophy that, I can control what I can control, and I'm not going to focus on what I can't control too much. And I can't control the Fed's monetary policy over the next year or so as we deal with these inflation rates, but I can control, how much expertise I build in this asset class, in this technology. And if the price action is a little bit rocky over the next quarter or couple quarters, I really don't care all that much in the big picture because I'm still working at these skills. I'm still learning these blockchains and everything like that. So I encourage everybody, get involved with this technology, get a wallet, use, with small amounts starting off, use this technology and really get your hands dirty in it. And there might be some ouchies along the way. As you might make some mistakes. You can mitigate a ton of those mistakes by having experts like, my friends and coworkers here to guide you along the way. But really just start with small amounts and learn this technology because it's going to, on a big time horizon, going to cause a lot of change and be a big disruptive factor.
Zack, any closing thoughts on this part of the show?
Yeah, actually, on to Jangle's point, I would also add the networking part. That whenever you get involved in crypto, you literally get to meet some of the smartest people in the world who are likely going to be significantly wealthier than those who are not involved in the crypto space. Because at least for me, if I look around my friend group and I see who is involved in crypto, they are significantly wealthier compared to those who are not invested in cryptocurrencies. I'm not sure. Do you guys see that trend as well?
Yep. And even in the news, I think one of the chief execs from Microsoft has just gone across to Binance, if I'm not mistaken. Don't know if you guys have seen that. I mean, it just shows you the trend of even the major players in the world of finance. So,
all the time, every day I see headlines like that.
And we're seeing it on the IT side too. We're seeing tons of IT professionals leaving Silicon Valley, working from home on Web3. I mean, the change is coming. It's all about, how you're going to put yourself in position to take advantage of those opportunities moving forward. And like Jangle said, start small, start simple, understand, what the fundamentals are because the mechanics are going to start changing. And we could see several iterations of all of this, but at least you're going to have the experience on knowing where to go. We say all the time, confusion equals money. And most people look at crypto and say, that's way too confusing. Why would I want to do that to make all the money? Because that's where all the new wealthy people are.
I just think, Jangle, just to sort of wrap this up, I think what you said is a great way of putting it. Like, use this opportunity where there is a bit of uncertainty, there's a bit of downtime for a lot of people when they're playing the market, should we say, to actually learn the skills of DeFi. Because, like you just said, a year from now, 2 years from now, if things are bullish on the long-term cycle, you'll be incredibly grateful for the time you put in right now because you'll actually be approaching this with knowledge and know-how instead of just complete gamble. And I think that's something that's really worthwhile understanding right now.
Yeah, bull markets make you money, bear markets make you wealthy.
Whew. On that note, let's move on. Amazing. So I wanted to move on talking about the battle of the layer ones. This is probably the hottest topic at YieldFarming.com. Obviously, we specialize in DeFi. We do some other things as well, but we specialize in DeFi. And as you guys will probably know, the layer ones, the alts in the layer ones are where a lot of the farming goes down. Obviously, ETH still has a huge amount of total value locked, but I don't think we're going to talk about that too much. What I want to talk about more is like what's really leading the way right now, and then we'll talk about some of the sub projects from these networks, from these chains, and then we'll also talk about what's next on the agenda when it comes to layer one. So let's just start off by talking about what's hot right now. What are you guys focused on? What have you got your own portfolio allocated towards?
Should I go first, guys?
Hit it, man.
Go ahead.
Yeah, James, before I even jump into that, maybe some of our listeners are very new to even farming. I just want to touch base for a quick minute on what was really the surge and the reason of these and the emergence of the layer ones. So most of the blockchains are trying to solve a specific problem, which is called the trilemma, which is a challenge of speed, decentralization, and security. And you will see that most blockchains are really good at two of these aspects, but they are lacking on the third one. And that's the biggest challenge in most of these technologies. Obviously, ETH had a significant emergence as the first mover, but the challenge with Ethereum was, and I'm talking about end of 2020, and we have seen DeFi coming up. The challenge with Ethereum was that it was working very well, but it was a little bit slow and a little bit expensive. And then it was getting increasingly more expensive. Now, as an entrepreneur, a lot of people looked at this as an opportunity and said, hey, I can build the same technology and it will be cheaper and it will be faster. And that was pretty much the emergence of some of these upcoming layer one projects. And the way I look at it is this was the opportunity for these layer ones to beat Ethereum and to build an ecosystem and build a scalable technology in the same time. If you use DeFi Llama, which is an excellent source for statistics just to track the amount of projects built on these blockchains, as well as tracking the total value logged, you will see that some projects were able to execute on that and leverage that opportunity, and some not really, I think. So my personal pick when it comes to like the battle of layer ones, I would definitely pick Avalanche as the one next to Ethereum. I also don't think there is an Ethereum killer. I think there is coexistence. But I try to think about sometimes of these blockchains kind of as like the like professional leagues. Like let's say you play football. Where do you want to play football? You want to play in the best league, and that's what's going to happen with the best projects. They will simply migrate over to the best blockchains, and that's what's going to happen with the best talent. If you are in a lower league but you are talented enough, you're going to go to the top league because more money, more opportunities, higher quality of people you get to work with. So in my opinion, overall, for actually taking long-term positions, my portfolio is Avalanche and Ethereum. And I think that a lot of the layer ones that we have seen coming up with a lot of hype, who actually really did not manage to execute on the ecosystem. And you can look at the projects and just be honest about yourself. Like, is it innovating or is it just copy pasting projects from other chains? And if you see innovation, you see something different, you see actual companies coming up that can compete potentially even with traditional, based companies or traditional finance companies, that's what you're looking for. That's what I'm looking for personally. And I see that like almost only in Avalanche right now. But challenge me on this one, guys.
I'll challenge you. I think the future for layer ones isn't necessarily who's going to kill Ethereum, but who's going to work the best together to outsmart Ethereum. In my personal opinion, I think that's where Cosmos-based blockchains are going to come to the forefront. I think that you can definitely make the argument that there's strength in numbers, and I think the fact that they've worked so hard to create that interoperability between the different blockchains, all considered layer ones together, I think will be fantastic. Terra is actually part of that whole Cosmos ecosystem. And Terra right now is the number 2 chain by TVL. They've taken tremendous steps to really just put themselves at the forefront, whether that be through endorsements with that 5-year deal they just signed with the Washington Nationals, the Major League Baseball team. They just got huge press today because of obviously opening day for baseball just happened. So I remember seeing a digital billboard like 3 stories tall talking about Terra. That I saw that on Twitter yesterday. I think to me that's just amazing, and they're taking all of the strides to lower the barrier to entry to get into their ecosystem, whether it be through Cato Pay outlet, Alice Finance. They're coming on with all of these on-ramping systems that I know that Avalanche is starting to do, but I think they're getting there with more mainstream adoption. So for me personally, I think that Ethereum will always be there. Ethereum will be that innovative test bed. But I think from a mainstream perspective, I think that Do Kwon and Terra have taken tremendous strides in the last 4 months to really get Terra's name out there, and they've built an ecosystem that is specifically around keeping Luna and UST strong. It comes at the sacrifice of alts on that chain not being very good, but if that's kind of the way to do it, then maybe that's the way to do it. Other than that, I think anything that's interoperable is going to be super critical. Thor chain, in my personal opinion, is going to be huge. Working with Luna specifically with the flexibility to trade native assets, having native Bitcoin, native ETH available because they've put in that architecture from the ground up. Regardless if you're in favor of it or not, the option's there, and most people are more willing to use their native assets, considering they own the custody and they own their crypto, than they probably will to wrap it and have it bonded in different ways that could cause security issues in case something happens. So for me personally, I'm big on the Cosmos train. Anything atom based is going to be, for me, the future. But I still buy BTC and ETH.
Nice. Jangle?
I almost want to cry tears of joy just to be able to be a part of this conversation, because this is really both of you hit on such major themes within the whole industry and how it's moving forward. And I want to agree and disagree with all of it at once, because yes, interoperability is super important. And to some extent, all of these blockchains are selling block space. So they kind of are competing with each other, but they're, everything we've mentioned, Terra and Luna and UST, Cosmos, Avalanche, and Ethereum, they're all doing different things and taking different approaches. And I think that when paired against the performance of Bitcoin, they're all going to have different asset performance. Like Chris, I think the Cosmos IBC protocol is inter blockchain connectivity protocol is a way to connect blockchains so you can bridge assets more seamlessly and ideally a lot more securely. And the top 3 biggest exploits in all of DeFi history have been bridge hacks. So clearly that's very important. But maybe the Atom token doesn't see as much of that direct price appreciation since different hubs on Cosmos can use different gas. Avalanche, kind of the same thing with subnets, but yeah, Avalanche, so much innovation is happening on Avalanche. So many blockchains are being, or not blockchains, but so many projects are being launched on Avalanche. It's my 3rd largest holding behind ETH and Bitcoin, then AVAX personally. Luna and the Terra blockchain are doing something incredibly unique with pairing a stable coin within their base layer. I mean, ETH created DAI, which is an over collateralized stable coin, but DAI is not baked into the underlying Ethereum protocol. Whereas with Luna and UST, that is the case. So basically, these are all different solutions to various problems. And honestly, the chances that these projects outperform the dollar over the next 3 years to 5 years, in my opinion, for Cosmos, for AVAX, for ETH, they're all probably going to outperform the dollar. But the question is, what has the most value accrual, what has the most sound tokenomics, and what's going to have the biggest impact on the future. And I don't like this term Ethereum killer, because I don't really think, just like I don't think anything's competing super heavily with Luna right now, I don't think really anything is trying to do exactly what Ethereum is trying to do. Because you look at blockchains like Sol, Phantom, whatever, AVAX even, they started off by, just like Zack said, recognizing that issue that users were having where gas fees are too high, the throughput on these networks isn't enough. And they thought, well, we're going to start with scalability, and then we're going to move towards developing our architecture to be more decentralized over time. Whereas Ethereum, the original approach that they took was, we're going to start with prioritizing, again, that trilemma like Zack brought up. We're going to start with prioritizing decentralization and security with Ethereum, and then work towards scalability over time. It's the only smart contract blockchain that's doing that. So it's hard to pick and choose favorites. It's a little bit easier to point and laugh at the obvious losers. Well, we're not going to do that too much, but yeah, there's so many interesting technologies and interesting teams doing amazing things.
Amazing. So guys, we are going to end this segment of the show. We've got a part 2 coming up next week for everyone who's tuning in to YouTube or on the podcast as well. If you enjoy the show, guys, please like, subscribe, and ring the bell. And also drop us a comment down below of what you want to see in future shows. It'd be really useful so we can tailor the content to you. And the final thing, if you have enjoyed the show and you want to get closer to these guys, you've got 2 options. You can go and join the Beat the Banks group, which is our free community where these guys are regularly dropping content, live AMAs, trainings, Q&A sessions, all in there. Or you can actually go and apply for the mastermind and have these guys in your back pocket. Either way, go across to www.yieldfarming.com/show and you'll get all the links there. That's all for today. See you guys on the next one. Ciao, ciao.